welcome. I've been wanting to do a werewolf photo for a long time now. That's why I picked up this Coup model werewolf forest version. So let's jump into it and open this thing up. So inside the box, we got the figure and a simple stand. Alright, let's get them in hand, and I really like the weathering of the soft goods and the detail of the model itself. Alright, let's take a look at the head first. Jaw has some good movement. I really like the look of those ears. Movement from side to side is nice. The up and down movement, I wish we could have got a little bit more. You kind of see that V kind of blocking it from going down all the way. And same thing in the back. Now for a closer look at the face before we move on to the arms. They have some good range of motion. Right now I'm going to move them all the way back and then all the way forward. A closer look at the arms and the detail. I really like that torn piece of shirt. And then a closer look at the claws. And you can see the wrist matches up with the hand really well, but it does kind of affect the range of motion. So now with the midsection, we get a good twist, but the ab crunch, there's not too much there. It's very limited. The legs, they move forward really far. You can get a good kick for going back. It doesn't go as far as the front did. And the side to side is a bit limited, but you can get some really good crouching shots. There is full range for the ankle. For the toes themselves, I would have liked to see a little hitch. It's just one solid piece. All in all, it's a nice figure. You can get some good poses out of it. I'm not big on soft goods, if you've ever seen any of my pictures, but I like these. They're nice, they're simple, and the weathering's great. So now let's move on to taking the photo. My idea for this photo is to have the werewolf chasing someone through the forest. So let's get started with building the forest. So for the trees, we're going to be using these things I made a while back. It's just a board, a screw that I just use a drill to drive it into the branch. Now I'm just going to place all these trees down and give it that forest look. With the trees all in place now, I'm going to come in with a good amount of dirt and just cover up all those stands. This is the wire that I'm going to be using for the shot. It's 16 gauge wire. This large spool I found at my local hardware store. I'm just going to cut off a little piece with these pliers. This is the figure I'm going to be using to run away from the werewolf. I wanted to create the jacket to be like flying in the wind, so I used some tack in the back to prop it up. And For the stand, I just shove the wire in there and use that to keep him up. For the werewolf, we're going to wrap that wire around the thigh, make it as tight as possible, and then use the pants to cover that wire. Here it was feeling a bit loose, so I had to go grab some pliers and tighten it up. With the wire tightened now, it actually supports the figure, and we can go put him in the scene. I like using these clamps to keep the wire in place. It really is just a balancing act to keep this figure in place. You can see it took me a while to get him in the right position, and then I realized that he needed to be a bit closer, so this could take some time. Now I set up this reflector here to give a little bit more light to this side. These are the camera settings I'm using. You can see I'm shooting at a high shutter speed, and my focus is going to be on the werewolf's face. Now I'm using a wireless trigger, and you can hear the camera go off when I throw the dirt. Now with that done, let's go into editing in Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom. I'm going to be merging two photos for the shot. The first, this one with the dirt in the front, and the second is going to be this one with the dirt in the back. Now right click on the photo, edit in Adobe Photoshop. That's going to take you to Photoshop, but we're going to go back, repeat what we just did with the other photo. We're going to unlock this photo. That will let us drag it into the other photo, and we want to line it up till we get the cross. To bring those two photos together, I'm going to create a mask down here at the bottom, and I'm going to use Control I to invert that mask. Using a white brush, I'm going to bring back that dust that was up front. I'm going to now change to a black brush and bring back some of the little rocks I lost. And now I'm just going to merge the two layers together. Gonna save now and head back into Lightroom, and you can see the changes we made are already there. This is the filter I use most of the time. I'm just checking to make sure everything's okay, and it's looking good. Now let's go back into Photoshop, and we are going to get rid of these wires. With the lasso tool, we're going to outline the wire. When that's done, we're going to go to Content, Where, Fill. And this is going to bring up two screens. The right is going to be what's the new image, and the left is going to be what it's going to be sampling from to make that new image. So we want to get rid of the sampling on the body, and have it focus on the outside so that little blemish will get smaller. I think I reduced it just enough, so now we're going to click OK and Control D to get rid of the outline. So I'm going to be using the stamp tool next, and I've got to merge the two layers together to be able to use it. So now I'm going to click on the stamp tool and check my brush sizes, and so what you want to do is alt click where you want to sample from and then brush away, and you can see that little blemish is disappearing. You can continue to sample from different spots with alt click as you move around. Now that I've finished up this last spot, you can see the wire's all gone. Now for the second wire, I like to break it up in sections where it connects to another person or another object. I'm pretty much going to be doing the same thing I did before, trying to get that wire out without too much of that sleeve coming in. And I'll be using the stamp tool again to clean up that sleeve, and then we use the upper part of the sleeve to match and get rid of that dark blue line. Now that we're done with the sleeve, I'm going to go down and repeat the same process over. This section was a little bit tricky, so I had to use different parts of the upper sleeve to kind of match and get rid of that line. So for this wire, there wasn't too much to get rid of, so I'll outline it. And then content aware. Nothing I have to really fix on this one. So now this wire is completely gone. And lastly, we are going to go to image, adjustment, and curves. So here we're going to make it just a little bit darker and then bring up the highlights. You want to create sort of an S shape. Okay, and with this I'm going to hit alright, and I'm going to save it and head back into Lightroom. Here in Lightroom, we're going to move to our filters, the one I usually use, click on it, and then head over to cropping. I'll be using the 1:1 ratio for this shot. Now I'm going to move it down a bit and just give it a slight tilt. Now when I'm done. I'm just gonna hit enter. This looks a little too sunny for me, so let's give it a nighttime look. And then after that, I'm just gonna go down and tweak all the settings. So I sort of lost that nighttime look, so I'm going to go into color grading and bring that back. Okay, I really like how that looks. Now I'm going to move on to the mask tool. And I'm going to select radial gradient. So what I'm trying to do is just brighten up the highlights just on the werewolf's shoulders by increasing the clarity. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the highlights on the man's shoulders. This next one is going to be for the werewolf's face. Since he's the one in focus, I want to brighten it up so you can see more of his features. I'm also going to increase the saturation to get a lot more of that red from his mouth out. For the last two masks I'm going to do, I'm going to be brightening up the ground and then brightening up the highlights on the side of the man. Alright, now that all the masks are done, I'm going to head down and add just a slight vignette, which is going to darken the edges, and that is going to be it. I really like how this turned out, and thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe, hit that bell. I'll see you next time.